well as we rev our engines for our final Under the Hood for this year. Been a great year. I think we're up to something like episode 11, which is a really good start to our Under the Hood series. My name's Tony, Chief Strategy Officer for Sorted Stone, and also on the call we're going to meet shortly is Gabe McCarthy, strategist from our Sydney office, and Matthew Reid, Solutions Architect from Perth. Sometimes joining us, of course, is Michael Peach. He's having a sleep in this morning, so we won't see him. But we do have the other boys on the call, so welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us, Tony. I would have loved to have stepped in as well, but I don't think that would be appropriate.
and you may see that the studio looks slightly different because we're all around the country. So I'm actually over in Perth, Western Australia at the moment. I was in the Perth office yesterday, although even Maddie's not in the Perth office; he's at home, and Gabe's not even in the studio.
I'm in the music studio.
That's right. So can you grab one of those guitars and sing us through the episode of Under the Hood?
No, man, we'll lose all our viewers if I do that.
All right. Well, let's get on to the serious stuff of what we're here for. So obviously today we're talking about like a number of things. We're going to get into custom dashboards in a moment. Now, this is an exciting one because all of the previous 10 episodes of Under the Hood has all been about building certain things around the HubSpot ecosystem of the sales, the marketing, and the service hub. But you do that for, one main reason. Well, there's a couple of reasons like automation and all of this other stuff, but all of the information should feed through into a lovely custom dashboard. So as we like to call the single source of truth, so you can actually see how your company is performing. So growing companies really need to see these quick answers as quickly as possible, and they need to see them in real time. So HubSpot makes it super easy for you to create custom reports that answer the most complex questions. So things like connecting your CRM, contacts, your company, your deal data, alongside what's happening with your marketing, your sales, and your service data. All of this in these lovely looking, colorful custom dashboards. So that's what we're going to cover off a little bit today. So why would you even bother? Why do you even need a custom dashboard? Well, you ask, I will answer. Data analytics makes decision-making 5 times faster for businesses. So gone are the days where businesses were operated based on assumptions and instincts or gut feeling. Now you can make your decision-making quicker and faster by having that real-time data right at your fingertips and on your dashboard. 70% of organizations think that data discovery and visualization are vital. 100%. It plays a critical role in simplifying complex data using those charts and maps and infographics and graphs, and not just for yourself from a sales team or sales manager or a marketing manager, but right the way up to the decision makers, within the organization, the key stakeholders of your organization. You can take these wonderful, colorful, real-time and real data to these people in the boardroom and actually show them how the business is performing at all levels. And finally, more than 46% of businesses are already using BI or business intelligence tools as a core part of their business strategy. And they're used for many different things like data cleaning, reporting, exploration. And one I love is predictive analysis, because if you can use your data not just to report on how things are today and how they were previously, like 30 or 60 days before, but you can then also use that data with the amazing under the hood of HubSpot on predictive analysis and predictive data to kind of see how the trends are performing for the future. You can create up to 300 dashboards that bring your team together. So they're flexible dashboards, looking exciting as the one on your screen right now. You can quickly build those high-level executive dashboards, as I mentioned before, for the key stakeholders. Set them up for your team members to track their progress and their goals, and drag and drop to customize the layout. It's super easy to use, and you're going to see that when Maddie takes us through the early stages of that, and then, of course, Gabe's going to show us how that looks for a particular client, how it all sort of comes together. But once you get your dashboards together, all of the stuff we've done in the previous 10 episodes will make total sense, because you'll actually see that great, rich data that's coming through. And some of the things that, our clients like to do, we do like to do goal setting with them and really understand, like, what is it we're measuring at a campaign specific level from their marketing area. So things like brand reach, website performance, their paid media engagement, forms that are submitted, all of that stuff can drive into these custom dashboards. So it's not just the physical stuff about, how many sales calls you made or intro calls you made, But it's that whole level across the whole buyer journey. So from the very first touch points of how people are finding you right the way through. And it really looks great when you see the visualization of the funnel aspect. So you can actually see where any of those blockages might be to actually streamline people through the buyer journey by having a look at that real-time data and making fixes as you go. So this week is custom dashboards. So we're super excited to dive under the hood for HubSpot with the lovely Maddie Reed, our solutions architect, who's going to take us into the world of dashboards.
Oh, gives it some of that Christmas whimsy and wonder, doesn't it? All right. So, kind of as you alluded to, Tony, I'll just start by sharing my screen. So let's have a bit of a look at some of the nuts and bolts of what you were just referring to then. And then because we tend to run these things a little bit like a ready, steady cook, then we'll cut to one we prepared earlier, where Gabe can pull up some of the custom reports and dashboards, which we've worked on for some clients previously. So it's a custom report. Where are we going to find it? It's obviously under the reports menu within HubSpot. So for anyone who's somewhat new, that is reports and reports, as you'd imagine. I'll just quickly talk through a distinction here. So I'll just go to the top right there where you create reports. Because predominantly when it comes to building custom reports, more often than not, and just for the sake of kind of talking through the fundamentals of it, it is going to be one of the two. So either single object or the custom report builder, where we'll spend most of our time. I did just want to quickly allude to the single object report, just so we have a sense of familiarity. So here's kind of like, just by way of an example, what that might look like. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this, and it is fantastic when it comes to reporting on the more, I guess, or the less complex aspects of maybe your CRM, for example. And the key inlier there is within the name itself. So it's single object. So this is a report focusing just on your contact performance or just on company, just on deals, etc. Here's a very basic one. So just contacts created within the year by counter contacts. Fantastic, cool. There's about 8 or so formats you can kind of filter through here. And you can kind of, if you kind of have a look through your filters or your data points you can add here, your menu is restricted to just contact properties. Like I say, nothing wrong with it, but here under the hood, we like to get a little bit more complex with things. So I'm going to jump right over that. Now we have the comparison shop and have a look at the custom report builder, which does add some of the more, I guess, more of the complexity to it. So just jump into here and immediately overwhelmed with the sheer amount of possibilities we have here, but don't be afraid, it's not too bad. We'll talk through some of this now. So key point of difference, or what you'll notice immediately, is because one of the main reasons you would do a custom report or a custom object report is that you can cross-reference different data sources within the same report. So right here at the top is going to ask you what your primary data source is. By default, that's contacts, but if we click into it, you can see there is quite a long laundry list of different objects as well as activities and kind of metrics you can pull through here. So we'll kind of go through them in some of the secondary objects in a minute, just because it's visualized better, but we'll keep that as contacts. Important thing here is just remember when you are building this report, don't lose sight of what, at the end of the day, you were trying to actually extrapolate what you're trying to pull from here. Otherwise, you'll get all sorts of skewed figures and things will start kind of not adding up, and you get on the phone to HubSpot support, you'll be there for half an hour, you want to hang online for someone's going here, and they'll tell you, oh, you've got the wrong filter. I've been there before, I'll put my hand up, it's not fun. So just think, okay, hold on, I want to count how many contacts open to marketing email. Awesome, we're going to keep it as a contact report. But as I was alluding to, there are quite an extensive array of secondary data sources you can pull from here. I won't read them all, but all your usual kind of CRM-based ones, so contacts, companies, deals are there. There is a suite of marketing-based data sources to pull from, so from various pages, so website, landing page, blog, to other activities such as interactions with your ads, interactions with marketing emails, so on and so forth. Sales also, whether or not that's activities, whether it's sequences, whether or not it's kind of correlation between deals and invoices, what have you. Similarly to the service suite as well, so conversations or feedback submissions. And last but certainly not least, if you are an enterprise client, you also do have access to custom objects. And if you've set them up, then hey, lo and behold, you can import them too. So just for the sake of that can be quite overwhelming, let's keep it somewhat simple for this introduction to it and just look at contact performance, maybe cross-reference with marketing email. See which one of our marketing emails the contacts actually actively clicking on. You'll notice once you've kind of selected a few data sources here, there is a excuse me, a brand new feature at the top here of sample reports. So if you click into that, HubSpot will have a little bit of think, a little bit of a tabulation of those data sources you've just selected, and maybe save you a bit of time. Just have a little look through and think, oh, okay, people typically, when filtering through these particular data sources, want to know, who were instant contacts that were created this month, or counted companies by deal stage this month. So definitely worth having a little squiz beforehand, just to see if you can't save yourself 15, 20 minutes of faffing about. However, we like faffing about, so I'm going to go ahead and probably shouldn't admit to that. Go ahead and let's go build something. So let's go next.
I think faffing about's on your CV, isn't it, Matty?
I think you endorsed me for it on LinkedIn.
I think that's his job title. Chief Faffer.
Chief Faffer.
Cool. Hey, look, we made it to the customer report builder. So let's just do a quick cross section. So we can see this is kind of how it looks at a basic level. However, now we can see there's a few more bells and whistles we can play around with here, but the premise is essentially the same. So far left here, we can get a sense of what data points are still available to pull into this report. By default, we can see our primary data source is selected. So we have all our fantastic contact properties we can pull from here. But we want to do a bit of a cross-reference. So, I said I wanted to do a count of contacts, for example. So I'll chuck that in. But I want marketing email performance. So if we go through the drop-down, we can see that has been selected. And we'll throw that in. And we can get the key metrics that you can report on. So this is limited to the marketing email events. You can only pick one. And that is the same with any manner of customer report when it comes to secondary sources. Generally speaking, you will have to restrict it to one particular metric. So here for marketing emails, that's a report based on bounced or delivered or email clicks, what have you. I'll do email clicks on this occasion, just as an indication of, engagement. And just to make sure that makes sense, let's see. Cool, we've got a tally of 27,000 contacts. That's great. It tells us nothing. Let's get that broken down by marketing email name. And we can see when we do start searching for specific data sources there, which you may want to do, because if you're like us, you probably have hundreds, if not thousands of potential sources, so it can be easier. But they do categorize it. So we can see once search for, cool, contact, no, I don't want that. I want a marketing email filter. Yep, fantastic. Let's go marketing email name, check that in. Awesome, that's starting to add a little bit more clarity to it, or it should do. Sweet, cool, okay, that's great. But it's all totally skewed. Same as any other report though. Let's make sure our filters are correct. We'll pop into here. Let's do a timestamp of maybe the last 3 months by way of example. So just throw in 90 days. And let's make sure that marketing email is actually known. Just make sure we're not getting any incorrectly skewed data there. And then very basic example, but hey, now we have a series of bar graphs which tell us out of all the marketing emails delivered within the last 90 days, which ones people actually opening and clicking within. So we can see under the hood's actually done quite well. So I think pat on the mat, boy. We've done quite well as far as the communications going out of APAC. But also too, if we go back to configure, we can see there's a few more metrics here. If we need to break down further by other metrics, you can do that. If you need to compare by various other data ranges, you can do that as well. But not to get too far away, there's also, if we have a look at the top here, you'll notice a few additional formats have appeared as well, which is the other benefit of using Custom Report Builder. So there's the option of the scatter graph, which I can go through in a second, just with another basic example, as well as the pivot table, which will give you some of the flexibility, maybe a bit more similar to what you use out of an Excel, where you can actually start toggling through your rows and your columns and the likes of that. But yeah, so that's kind of an example where it comes to marketing emails, for example. That's a very super common one we do get from clients typically. HubSpot has quite a comprehensive array of marketing email reports from within the marketing emails page itself. The request we usually get though is like, yeah, that's great, but I just need like a key metric pulled out and thrown in a dashboard so I can send it to my execs and something, and they can see, cool, that's campaign tracking. That's what Custom Reports enables you to do. Usually HubSpot can be a little bit restrictive sometimes when it comes to, cool, if you want all the reporting in the world, you have to go to the tool itself. But if you just want key figures, it can be a little bit hard to pull it out sometimes. It's one of the benefits of Custom Reports. Just before I do hand over to Gabe though, to have a look at some of those fancy reports we have whipped up for clients, I'll just go back to edit those data sources. And we'll have a look at just a different one by way of comparison. So let's just have a look at one of those scatter graphs, for example. So let's go to change our primary source to deals. And to be honest, this particular one, let's just do deals, which is an example of a single object. However, just some of the additional, I guess, reporting functionality you can get out of doing this within the custom report builder. So just quickly create one for you folks here using our fancy scattergraph tool. So I might go, for example, the x-axis to count the deals. I might go and find, excuse me, the amount. Let's see if we can find a report for like, what particular months, tend to be best as far as kind of like deals we're throwing in our pipeline. So let's do that. And the other thing we'll need to broken down by is the close day, which will give us way too many data points to request, because if we hop into our filters, that's kind of currently trying to filter every single deal ever created in every single pipeline, which can be a lot. So let's make sure that makes sense. Go to our deal stage, because theoretically we want to see what deals have actually kind of won, or has actually brought revenues. Let's just make sure we're only searching for close won deals, and let's do close date is, let's just focus on this year, because that gives us a bit of a trend, but that's all time. So that gives us some of that comparative data, but let's just go ahead and go for this year, just by way of an example. And then we get, hopefully, if we get a drum roll, kind of an idea of a scattergraph. Benefit of scattergraph too, it does give you an idea about certain trends as far as like groupings of certain data. You can determine clusters, the correlation between other ones. So just by hypothetically looking at this one, we can say, okay, cool, December was a bit of an outlier, probably because it doesn't exist yet. There's only a single deal in it. Cool, that's no cause for concern. But you can kind of get a sense of like, cool, okay, let's have a look at kind of the high revenue deals versus kind of like the sheer count of them. So, let's have a look, and you can click into that. I won't, because it'll pop up our deal information, but you can get a sense of, okay, cool. So what months have actually kind of like contributed maybe the higher value deals versus, high quantity, but maybe not the highest amount per deal, that sort of thing. Let's use that when we come into 2023. Let's see what kind of clients we should be kind of prospecting then. Let's use that to help, have a better 2023, as it were. But that's me done in the kitchen. So I will pass.
Very good. You were definitely under the hood and in the kitchen, and a few pots on the boil there, which was good to see. So let's, Gabe, let's have a look at how that all comes together with a particular case study, and how you've mainly used all of this for a particular client.
Yeah, will do. And I think to one of Maddie's earliest points is that you shouldn't really lose sight of what you're trying to accomplish within your reports that you put into your dashboard. And in particular, there is a difference. A lot of people don't distinguish between a dashboard, which is a collection of reports, and individual reports. And I think it makes sense to create reports within the same dashboard that have correlations between each other. They shouldn't be like a sales report with like, your blog report, it does, unless there is a need to join the two together, like as Maddie pointed out, you can sometimes merge two objects together based upon what level of HubSpot you have, then there shouldn't really be a lot of contamination, crossover use cases like that. So keeping that in mind, I want to show you two client examples, as Tony was alluding to, which has two variations. One is going to be, I'm going to show as a bit more of a simplistic one that I was mentioning before about how you could simply go about putting together a set of reports based upon one simple use case on marketing within an organization that's very high level and has attributing reports to it, versus one that is going to be a little bit more complex, and it's going to be covering off all around service activity and some of the in-depthness you can go into. And it's going to be one of our clients that Manny knows very well, that we spend a lot of time digging into and trying to ascertain these custom reports for a long time. So this first one I'm going to share with you is one of our clients here from Play. Essentially, they, previous to this, and I think built this out back in March. Yeah, the last pulse report was in March. We built this out based upon their needs for transposing their print off PDF that they had every month from their from their marketing manager, in terms of all these disparate systems of GA and paid media and social and all that website data, all condensed into this one PDF report that wasn't live. It was something that would have to be put together through, I think, Canva or something. And then it was delivered to the whole team, and the marketing person took them through it. Well, now we just basically said, well, let's have a look at that report, see where we can eliminate all that need to draw in from other places and draw it all into HubSpot. and then replicate those reports within HubSpot, and then just remove any irrelevant ones. There were a lot of double up reports in those previous reportings they had, and we were able just to condense them down to single reports in here. So as you can see, as for example with Play, we've got these little custom things that we've got at the top, which are basically like things that I think any level of HubSpot reporting you can have, correct me if I'm wrong, Maddie, but you can basically create these kind of your own written kind of reporting within the HubSpot dashboards. So you can actually, can't remember where exactly it is, it's in one of these, add a report. Oh yeah, so if you create a report and then you create one of these reports here where it's just a an editable manual like set of reporting, basically like a Word doc embedded into your reports. You could do that for like, you know, writing up monthly metrics and findings and recommendations and stuff like that, which we've been doing for the last few months with these guys, as you can see, all these ones above. And it's good to have that because like a bit of a manualness to it, but it like is all relevant and, you know, opens up discussions and stuff and shows that you, if you are the marketer working with this organization, you can see like the work going into it, and you can see exactly where it all relates to with the reports below, which are all here. And a lot of them are broken up between the amount of new contacts per month of traffic versus quarterly, which is very important to them to make sure that their words and their awareness stuff is all getting out, very top of funnel. They're very concerned about making sure their brand is getting out there to as wide an audience as possible. The monthly traffic, sort of new versus returning, and then that's for monthly and that's for quarterly. And then you can see website views and sort of the incline of that. So as you can see there, all the efforts we're doing in SEO and paid media and whatnot is all paying off. It's kind of showing the incline there, which is nice. Marketing performance, you can actually see here the number of sessions versus then the amount of contacts, and actually see the increase per month. So this is for each month, and we do this reporting each month. So you can see like, oh, it's up 6.9% of new contacts added through the CRM, which is great. And also the sessions are up. So that makes sense to kind of correlate sessions between new contacts, and then actually how many of those new contacts became customers too. So it's very high level. It doesn't go into exact detail of each and every deal, but it kind of shows how marketing performance affects the overall efforts and results. And there's a few other kind of things. I won't go into every single one below here. Kind of breaks down, you know, source types, their blog post performance, sort of which ones are doing best, because that's very important to them. Landing page submissions, emails sent and open, and the improved click-through rates, their actual social audience. So how many new LinkedIn followers they're getting each month. Yeah, and there's a whole bunch of other things here. I won't go through every one of them. And even like you can break it down by life cycle stage too, which we do a lot, like actually showing how people are going from subscriber to lead to marketing, so MQL, SQL, and customer, etc. So that whole breakdown there. And you've even got one that shows all-time pie graph, which is kind of cool. I kind of like that one. And you can obviously, not how they could previously do with their old reporting, go into every single bit of the report and see the actual data in each, but you can do that. Just click in and actually see, you know, who fits into that group specifically as a contact, and go into those individually as well. So that's pretty cool. That's one huge benefit of having HubSpot reports and dashboards built out. And this is, it might look complicated, but it's probably one of the more simple kind of approaches you can take with marketing dashboards if you're just looking at the marketing efforts in general. What I want to show you now is a slightly more complex one we built out for FoundYou, which is around their implementation process and sort of like the efforts based around their team, and a dashboard we built around that. Which I think is really cool, because essentially they want to, their whole thing about what they do is they make sure that the implementation process and whole process around serving the customer is very succinct, improving constantly, you know, getting better, and making sure the user experience is like paramount to them, because that's, as a SaaS-based platform, it's very competitive, and they want to make sure that they're at the top of their game. So they developed out this, and we helped them map out what the needs would be for having an implementation team dashboard, and what they need as an overall observing kind of point of view. So they'll need to know exactly like the amount of tickets per owner, so they can measure out capacity. And oh, Sam's got like over 2,000. That's crazy. You know, we should look at like how we can put some to David, who's not pulling his weight and not doing that many at all. You know, clients by implementation manager, so the people that oversee all of this as well. Like how many clients do they have? So that's a huge thing on their capacity, and they really put their people first, so that they understand, oh, we can see that these people are overloaded. We need to hire more people, or we need to distribute the efforts across the team a bit better. And that obviously then falls into how then they can treat their customers better as well. Total client totals by implementation stage as well. So like their various stages of the implementation process where they've got people in. So this is a good way to see like, oh, there's a lot of people stuck at the pre-kickoff. Why is that? You know, we need to move these 5 down the line into all these other stages ASAP. Otherwise, we're going to have new people come in and we're going to be really backlogged in the next couple of weeks, you know? So looking at that, and then even this lovely, this is a cool one, this little custom report here, targets go live per month. So it actually shows here the targets around the ticket name and the month breakdown, and you can actually go individually into that and see the individual detail per report, per stage, which is really cool, and shows the total below here as well. And then you can see the anticipated go live date by implementation as well, which is really important. So that all the efforts above, you can kind of see where it's all coming towards and the actual ticket associated to each, understand who's the owner of each. And then when these guys catch up and do their weekly stand-ups and whatnot with the implementation team, they can go into this and already have an idea as to where everything's at and just expel more context to the manager if they need to and talk about their workload and whatnot. So this is quite an extensively complex dashboard, very different to the previous one we showed. It is based sort of mainly on the record type to do with ticketing, so the service hub side of things. So you can do service hub based reporting. And the previous one I showed you was around marketing, but as Maddie had showed, you could do deal based ones, which is around the sales one and whatnot. So, and the two can marry across and whatnot. So we do have other reports built out for these guys because they wanted to make sure their process from marketing to sales to service was smooth and succinct. So we've got actual reports that update regularly, as that one just did for some reason, where it can basically show you like where the stop gaps are between certain teams, so that they know that if the sales team's got a bunch of deals coming in, they need to know and look at the implementation team and say, oh, well, we're kind of really packed up for December in terms of capacity. Sales team, can you just mitigate and make sure that, like, you know, you set client expectations that implementation will happen January. And that's kind of where all this leads to in that discussion. So it's really helpful for keeping visibility and conversations flowing amongst the team.
Cool. I think what's great for me to see, which was great, and I'm sure people on the call, is like how you can, you know, as I mentioned at the very beginning about the buyer journey, like you're really focusing in on, you know, the marketing side of things, and you've got all your touch points. So you can see where there's blockages in that still stage or stages of the marketing funnel, then into sales, and then into service with your ticketing. So I think it's pretty cool how you've got that basically the helicopter view of how your business is performing.
Yeah, it's really a lot of people I think use reporting only for marketing and sales, but there's so much like capability, especially if you got to enterprise level on HubSpot. You know, so many avenues open up for you for custom reporting, as Maddie was showing. The possibilities are endless, and they're constantly updating them too. And it's really cool the kind of new things that they are including.
And Maddie, I think you can do something like what do they call it? Retribution reporting, where you actually, because I know that's a favorite subject of yours, but where it all comes together and you can actually see how your channels are performing from a financial perspective.
That's right, yeah. So that's probably a whole session in and of its own right. But yeah, that's another one too, where they will give you contact attribution. So, you know, what kind of like assets are leading to have contacts being created. I think it's a professional level, but then once you get enterprise, you can do it from you know, a deal level as well, like a revenue level as well, where it kind of really does get quite nitty-gritty, quite granular. A lot of that information, you're like, okay, cool. So what assets are actually actively leading towards, you know, deal creation and deals won and actual, you know, dollars through the door at the end of the day. So heaps and heaps of possibilities. It is, like Gabe says, almost endless. And they're always adding more, which you can tell when you join, and the whole thing is half beta tags. So custom reports, I think, only just came out of beta 3 or 4 months ago. So always churning new stuff out.
Yeah, and the ability to do like hundreds of reports, it can, like you said, be endless. You can just keep on reporting. But, you know, we live in a world where data speaks. And the idea is, so if you're watching this and you need any help at all with building out dashboards or getting a little bit too granular, like some of the detailed ones that Gabe showed you, just reach out to the team, and we'll happily work with you on some custom dashboards. But thanks, boys. That's the end of the show for this year. We're back again next year, and without the Mo's. We'll be back to normal.
Normal indeed, yes.
Yeah, that's right. No more until November next year. Who knows if we do it again? But thanks for joining us. If you've been watching the series, continue with us as we go into the new year when we come back with some more exciting topics from under the hood of HubSpot.
Thanks, everyone.